I'd hit him 3 point every single time. And that smile, see that smile that he's got now, would very, very quickly disappear as I slowly took him apart, dismantled him.
Carlos Brathwaite! Remember the name!
But we need to test the entire art of batsmanship and not just the front foot play.
If I had someone to bat for my life, I would pick Steve Waugh.
Hello and welcome to Cricket Inside Out. We've got a great show lined up for you this week. How does the number one all-rounder in the world do it? We take a look at what you're getting up to at home and put some of our favorite commentary voices to all of your moves, and we answer your burning questions. Joining me on the show today, Ian Bishop and Elma Smit. Smithy, you won the Bert Sutcliffe Medal for services to New Zealand cricket recently, so we're in esteemed company.
Well, Elma, thank you for that. Yes, you are an esteemed company. We'd have had that anyway with Ian Bishop, but yeah, listen, I got an award last week from New Zealand Cricket for services to cricket. So I'm in the mid-60s now, so I think it's sort of telling me I've done enough and it might be time to move on more than anything else. But I've joined a really hallowed list of commentators and people that have contributed through the game on and off the field, administrators as well. It was a really pleasant honour for me to receive. I was so humbled by the whole deal. But you know, what got me most of all was not the fact that I got the award so much. It's the messages I've had from people around the world, old friends, old cricketing friends. And that's meant as much to me as the actual award itself. So it's cool. It's been a cool week, yeah.
We just love being able to hang out with you and with Mr. Bishop. If I asked your family members what you've been up to, Bish, what would they be saying?
Far too much, Elma. First of all, let me start by saying congratulations to my namesake, Ian, that elite bunch of folks, the Hadley family, Sir Richard, Walter, the father, and of course you in Chatfield. That's an elite group and duly deserved. My wife will tell you that she's been trying to keep me busy around the house being a handyman. I was saying to a colleague of yours, I failed miserably. Some of the work I've done needs to be redone. So I think I'm going to stick to my day job.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm sure that you guys are not used to spending quite this much time at home, and a few of our cricketers probably as well. Let's get stuck into the first segment of the show, our stat attack this week. We are turning our gaze towards the West Indies some more now. Jason Holder, number one ranked all-rounder. The rankings, of course, released last week. For over a year now, number one, latest ranking up 9-3 in the bowling charts as well. Mr. Bishop, tell us about Jason Holder and how he's managed to rocket right up to the top like this.
First of all, when you say Mr. Bishop, I keep looking around to see if my school teacher is sitting behind me and I've done something naughty. Look, Jason has sort of improved exponentially, and I want to target the bowling perspective more than the batting. The batting was always something that he loved, something that we in the Caribbean always thought he would excel at with that double hundred against England, etc. But it's his bowling where he's been able to get wickets in all conditions. Initially, up until I would say 2.5 years ago, I myself would have said maybe he is very much condition specific, but he's got 5 wicket hauls in India, 5 wicket hauls in the UAE, 5 wicket hauls in the Caribbean. So he's proving himself to be an all conditions bowler, not express pace, but swinging the ball and moving the ball according to some analysts and analytics more than anyone else in the world. So I think that's fantastic and great for him, great for West Indies cricket.
What was interesting is that in a recent interview, he said that he actually thought 2018 was a better year for him. Smithy, do you consider him perhaps underrated, or is that not quite fair?
Well, I think when you look at Jason Holder, and I don't really go deeply into stats too often, but I have for this particular half hour with you, Elma, because I didn't want to get caught short. So I've discovered quite a bit about this kid. I mean, and he is still a kid by international standards. Let's not forget that. He's had 12 cricket teams he's played for, according to the records, outside the West Indies. Now, that is incredible. To think that the things that he has gone through early in his career, to be handed the captaincy so young, that was the thing that got me about him. To be handed the captaincy of one of the proudest cricket teams in the world, and have to deal with that at such a young age, and get through it to this point. A lot of young kids wouldn't have been able to handle that. So I look at the character of the guy as opposed to his statistics. I watch his demeanour on the field, and I watch the respect that his fellow players give him. He's amazing. He is an absolutely amazing treasure, I think, to West Indies cricket. Had it not been for him to hold the ship together during some fairly tumultuous years where high-profile players were coming and going, I would have thought to myself that things could have really fallen apart. I hold Jason Holder responsible for keeping the West Indies together. In New Zealand we say Kane Williamson, they wear a hat in New Zealand called a white hat called "Steady the ship, Kane. Steady the ship. Hold it together." Jason Holder deserves a bigger hat than that. He's been amazing, absolutely amazing.
What is his secret? Is there a formula? Young kids watching Jason Holder wanting to emulate what he does, what should they be looking for?
He's charismatic. I think one of the things that Ian alluded to just now. So he said quite recently that the captaincy brings out the best in him. He's grown up a lot during the time that he became captain. I think around 2015. It took him a couple of years to find his footing. From a technical perspective, from a purely on-field perspective, for being such a tall man, I would think 6'7", somewhere around. He's got me by about 1.5 inches. He bowls quite a full length. He hits the stumps quite a lot. He hits the pads quite a lot. Great wrist position. Gets the ball to swing both directions or seam in both directions, as I alluded to just now, and really enjoys his batting. So he's the type of captain, you may have maybe one or two guys who tactically are a little bit more sound around the world, but Jason leads from the front, and I think that's an admirable quality. I think Jason's position in the Test team is solidified as an all-round cricketer, because what we were talking about at the number one all-rounder is in Test match cricket. So I think his bowling now holds its own. He's had critical partnerships with the bat, particularly with his countryman Shane Dorridge. But I think from a purely reserve fast bowling perspective, there are a couple of guys coming through: Shamar Holder, Anderson Phillip from Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados, respectively. I'm not sure I'd put them in the extreme pace category, but two young bowlers, Jaden Seals, an under-19 player from the recently concluded Under-19 World Cup. So three guys that I can just touch on straight away and say the future of West Indies fast bowling looks in good hands.
That's the word from Ian Bishop. Let's move on to a moment in time that we all treasure. That's if you saw it or perhaps heard of it. This week, 25 years ago, Australia announced itself as cricket's new kings as they toppled the West Indies in a series that will probably be remembered forever for that moment between Steve Waugh and Curtly Ambrose. We're cracking open the Hall of Fame this week to honour the Australian great, known for his mental strength and grit, and the fact that it personified Australian cricket and their dominance in the late 90s. Smithy, let's start with you. Talk us through Steve Waugh's influence on Australian cricket particularly, and where they were at that stage, perhaps, considering the context.
Lead from the front. I mean, I think he personifies that particular phrase because he so often did. When it got tough, he got tougher. Australians are pretty tough by nature, but when you lead Australia in that fashion, you're really talking some pretty impressive stuff. I mean, his longevity is the thing that gets me when I look at his career. 168 tests over 321 day internationals. I mean, how do you physically stay fit enough to do that anyway over that long period of time? Okay, Bish is looking at me saying, well, he was just a batsman. He didn't have to run him very far. But, and that is the truth. But the mental side of it, the leadership, the mental side of it, to me, of captaining a side like Australia with so much expectation, so many big series, not World Cups. I mean, remember they play the Ashes as well. Every time they go on the field of play and put the baggy green on, they're expected to win. So he got them into that frame of mind. I once said, Elma, in an interview, someone said, how do you rate Steve Waugh? I said, well, when it was at its pomp, really, really tough, if I had someone to bat for my life, to save my life, I would pick Steve Waugh, because I figured at that time that he would never say die. He would never give in. And I think he'd be a worthy guy to do that. That's about as high a praise as I could probably give him from a batting point of view. Obviously, he had some very good players around him. I mean, I'd love to have captain Shane Warne, Clem McGrath, Adam Gilchrist, Ricky Ponting. I wouldn't mind captaining that side either. So, and I think we all would have done a pretty good job with that kind of talent. So, he held the job for a long time. Great player, deserved Hall of Fame member.
High praise there from Smithy Bish.
Look, Smithy played against him at the beginning of his career, so Smithy has a good insight and then commentated on him most probably as to how Steve had grown. For me, a couple of things stand out, having played against Steve when he was a little bit more established. First of all, as a West Indian fast bowler coming on the back end of some great fast bowlers, aggression has been a great part of our game. So when you came up against a West Indies team, you better be able to play off the back foot very well. And from what I experienced playing against Steve, he wasn't a great puller or hooker of the ball. So that's a big chunk of scoring areas gone there. Yet he was able to average nearly 50 against the West Indies, 700s against various West Indian attacks. So he found a way to score. Anyone that can stand toe-to-toe here at the Queen's Park Oval in Trinidad, where I am from, against the rampaging Kirkley Ambrose and not flinch as Kirkley came to him under a cloud of red mist, has to be one of the strongest players mentally in the game. And I don't know if Ian can testify to this. Steve scored 100 basically on one leg at the Oval in London on an Ashes tour back in the early 2000s. And that to me epitomizes his single-mindedness, his drive to succeed, and basically his mental strength, which I think is his greatest quality.
Is that a standout performance for you, Smithy, or do you have another one?
Oh, look, it's hard when you've played that many games to pick on one. But I remember when he was running out of time to score that magnificent 100 at the Sydney Cricket Ground, that one that was going to be so romantic for the whole world watching on, the one that everyone wanted to get to beat the clock and get there, and he got there basically off the last ball, with the whole of Australia riding him home, and I think pretty much the whole of world cricket riding him home to do that. That for me was a special time, but there'll be so many moments in Steve Waugh's career which really have epitomised what he has created for himself. I mean, goodness me. I mean, some people say he wasn't even the best cricketer in his family, and he's been great. He's been absolutely great. So, I mean, Mr. and Mrs. Waugh got the recipe right, didn't they?
Smithy joked about the fact that he's not probably the best batsman in his family. His brother Mark, who I bowled to, I couldn't really feel comfortable bowling to Mark. Mark was very stylish, very wristy. I never came to terms with that. I was more comfortable bowling to Steve. But when a guy averages over 50 in test match cricket, and we talked about the fact that at times against the West Indies and our attacks, he would glove the ball, he would punch, he would jump, and he would look, well, not aesthetically pleasing, but he would just get the job done. World Cup championships, trophies. I just think to ask much more of a guy who maximized what was not as much ability, natural ability as his brother, would be doing a disservice to him from my perspective.
Is that what made him such an elite player, Smithy? The fact that he could maximize and become an elite player like that in that era, playing with such phenomenal cricketers and getting the most out of his team?
Yeah, I think so. I think before that, though, he got the best out of himself. I'm not sure whether he has got. If I compare the two cricketers, Mark and Steve Waugh, I say Mark Waugh much more natural, much more at home playing the game. Made it look easier, particularly the aspects of fielding aspects and the batting aspects of the game. But then again, Mark didn't have to captain the side. He didn't have the pressure of having to think his way through situations on behalf of other people, as well as what he was doing himself. So he was able to just get on and play the game. Look, Steve Waugh, you probably, if you looked at the two Waugh brothers and you were going to cricket, you'd say, gee, I hope I see Mark Waugh bat today slightly ahead of Steve Waugh, because they were on the eye, they were that kind of player. But when you pick up the paper tomorrow morning, I'll bet you $1 to a donut that you were quite pleased that Steve Waugh was in the team, because he will have made a contribution very worthy as well.
Mm-hmm. And that's where we're going to leave it for the Hall of Fame contribution this week, because we got so many great questions from the fans. Is us giving you center stage, asking your questions to the legends we feature on the show. First up, KO Cricket 528 Kartik O wants to know, would you bring back the old one ball system in ODIs to bring back reverse swing in the one-day game? Bish?
I would like to see reverse swing come back into one-day cricket and play a greater part in the bowling lineup or bowling armory at the back end of an innings, but only on the proviso that there is developed a ball that would last the entirety of the innings. I think reverse swing is handy given one-day pitches are so flat. So I would like to see it, but on the caveat is that it must, or the development of a ball that lasts the entirety or potential entirety of the innings be developed.
Ashish Man United 7 on Twitter asks, what innovations would you like to see to promote more supporters coming to see Test cricket? Smithy?
Well, that is a question, Mr. Man U7. I'm a Spurs fan, by the way. That is a question that they will burn so many candles around the various boards around the world and scratch their head till they've got nothing left to scratch to think about how they're going to get people back to Test cricket. Look, I'm not sure you can force their hand in that regard, because there are so many other options, attractive options for people to watch. And the game is televised so beautifully all around the world these days with the intricacies of Test cricket. I could sit here and we could probably prophesize for another 3 or 4 hours. I'm not sure I could come up with a genuine answer for that, because the experts can't, and I don't put myself in that bracket. I think the players have got an onus on them to try and speed the game up. There you go. Get more value for money if you're there. Speed the game up and try and approach every session of cricket in an attacking fashion to try and get a result. I don't think you can do much more than that.
I have a question here from KO Cricket 528 again that I think that you guys might have some strong opinions on. I'm going to ask both of you to answer this. Let's start with Bish. If Ian the batsman faced Ian the bowler, who would come out on top?
No. To be frank, if let me reverse this. If Smithy was bowling to me, it depends on what success would mean. Would success be Smithy not getting me out? I think I'd win that comfortably. Would success be smacking Smithy all over the place? I was never in that category in terms of my batsmanship. And if I reverse that and I were bowling to Smithy, I think he'd smack me all over the park based on the reputation that he developed over his career.
A classic Bish answer right there.
I know what I'd do. I'd walk away to the onside and I'd just give myself a little bit of room. And I'd hit him through point every single time. And that smile that he's got now would very, very quickly disappear as I slowly took him apart, dismantled him. And all I can say is I'm 63. I'm 63 years of age. Perhaps not in the same condition I was back then. But look, if he wants to pop over in the backyard and have a game later on this afternoon, we'll sort it out.
Yes, bring it on. Next time we're together somewhere, guys, I'm going to hold you to it. Caned by Richardson on Instagram wants to know, Smithy, what's your favorite cricketing memory?
My favorite cricketing memory. Well, we're only about that far away from it being the World Cup final last year, to be certain, Elma. Martin Guptill's bat had been that much longer, that would have been my favorite cricketing memory. That occasion was very fond memory, but my playing memory, I played in a lot of test match winning sides, which I was very lucky to do on the back of some very good teammates. But I think personally, I got 173 against India, which was most unexpected when our team was 131 for 7, and we went for 9 at the end of the day. So I think that afternoon, whilst it was so surreal, was important to me. Not so much of the way it happened, because the way it was needed. We're in big trouble, and that innings got us out of trouble. And I think those are the moments as a team player that you respect the most.
Sweetest memories there. Facebook's Pradumya Chakraborty wants to know, Besh, who is the best limited overs death bowler? Jasprit Bumrah, Mitchell Starc, Kagiso Rabada, or is there someone else?
No, I'm going for Jasprit Bumrah on a day-to-day basis. Mitchell Starc is very good when he gets things right and once there's a reverse swing. But if we're talking on a consistent basis from what I've seen in the last 2-3 years, right now, Jasprit Bumrah for me.
And then Kostov DG18 on Instagram wants to know, why are bouncers more popular than Yorkers in Test cricket, although Yorkers are more decisive in tricking the batsman?
No, well, I'll have a go at that. The bouncers these days are like we're going to come onto this shortly, they're like a dot ball, really. They're an easy way to not get scored off as much as anything else from my point of view. So I think they're the more preferred option. The margin for error in a Yorker is so fine because it can very quickly become a half volley and a full toss. Therefore, it's a very easy scoring option. Whereas a bouncer, you really only got to worry about the height and getting the height right, because the danger these days, of course, you can be wider and have to re-bowl the ball. But from my point of view, it's become an easier option for bowlers to really practice that. And it changed the pace of. You see the slower ball bouncers that have come into cricket lately. It's one of the most effective deliveries because it's so deceptive. That is, for me, it's harder to bowl a Yorker on a regular basis, I think, than a bouncer, and that's why.
Okay. Well, we have asked you to submit your videos of what you've been getting up to at home. We've all been spending a lot of time, not only with our family members, but also in our most familiar environments. This is what our two esteemed guests on this week's Cricket Inside Out did with your footage.
2 deliveries left, 7 to win. Big delivery this. That's gone. Oh my goodness, that's not coming back anytime soon. As ordinary a delivery as coffee on a Sunday morning. Move over Chris, move over Carlos. The coolest cat in the park has arrived. Look at the body language. Emotionless, ice running through his veins. He's in the zone and ready to finish this contest.
One-handed technique. It's a little bit casual for my liking. He's going to put one down. Safety. 2 hands first. That's better. Look at that technique. Feet equally apart. It should be level with the shoulders. It's looking good. Eyes focused. Eyes focused. And they give. The hands give. It's a lovely, soft approach. It really is. It's a technique that most professionals would be very, very proud of. Thought so. Absolutely thought so. She's got an issue there.
Thank you so much for taking part in the show. It's time for us to turn our focus to the debate and a burning question that we need the two Ians to weigh in on today. They've each chosen a side on this topic. I'm going to allow 2 minutes and for them to just outline their position before we really get stuck in. The topic in the debate today: bowlers should be permitted an additional bouncer in T20s. And Bishop, please take us away. And your time starts now.
Oh, look, I'm all for that. And I don't mean bouncers to hurt people, but I think there's a limit of 1 per batsman in T20 cricket, or just 1 in the over, I should say. So once a batsman understands that maybe a bowler has served that one up early, then he can predict almost what's coming to him for the rest of the over. A lot of T20 cricket and batsmanship too often in the modern era has been front foot based. Even I can play off the front foot as a number 9, 10, 11 batsman. So I think another short ball, not to hurt someone, but just to ask different questions and maybe keep a batsman guessing in a format that is batsman oriented anyway, I think will do a lot for the game. It will test batsmen a lot more. And somehow it will bring the bowler back a little bit more into the T20 contest.
Smithy, is this a fair argument? Do you disagree?
Well, it's a fair argument if you can bowl bouncers. Of course, it's a fair argument. But I'm going to speak on. I've got screeds and screeds of notes here on this subject.
Woo!
But I'm going to speak today on behalf of the cover drive, the off drive, and the on drive, and the shots, front foot shots generally, that are the most beautiful shots in the game. Now, even the most avid T20 cricket watcher wants to go and see beautiful batting. He wants to see strokes of elegance played around the world, so he can have a memory of the game. A father takes his young son to the cricket and he says, "Son, I want you to play like this. I want you to develop into a batsman like this." He doesn't want to see a son developing into a batsman that's got to duck and dive and every now and then develop a ramp shot or a little glove down towards fine leg. So I'm speaking on behalf of the actual attractiveness and the pureness of the game. Bring the front foot more prevalent. Get rid of the bouncers. You can have one if you like, but I'm not even sure 1 and over is deserved for some of these guys. It's a dot ball. It's not a wicket getting a guy out ball anymore. It's a dot ball. So I suggest that if we're going to have 2 bounces per over, after that, then you're allowed to have a batsman having to pick his own field. There you go. A batsman can select the field he bats to if a bowler can bowl those extra bounces per over, because otherwise bowlers are just, they feel as if the game's getting away on them. That's the problem. They grumpy fast bowlers are thinking the game's getting away on them, and therefore they want to stake a claim. What is an extra bouncer? And who, by the way, runs in and says to the batsman on the way and says, "Hold it, I'm going to bowl you a bouncer, but this one's not going to hurt you if it hits you. Good luck on that."
Can I just object, Elma, to 2 words used by Ian Smith in that soliloquy that he just expanded on? The pureness and attractiveness of the game belongs to batsmen. Well.
So he did also mention safety, though. Is that a fair counter?
I don't know. I think pitches in T20 cricket, and by the way, I'm only joking with Smithy on his use of those terms. I think most pitches in T20 cricket, and if the T20 World Cup comes off later this year in Australia, you're going to see pitches that are very, very much in tune with batsmanship. So I don't know that with all the protective equipment we have today, with concussion substitutes, I think coming in, so batsmen are well prepared. Bowlers are also, I suppose you're operating from a perspective. I don't think you want to hurt anybody. You don't want to hurt anyone. But I do think batsmen need to be able to play the pull shot, play the hook shot a lot more, because the cover drives are there. They'll never go away. But we need to test the entire art of batsmanship and not just the front foot play.
A very quick counter of the counter. My counter is that it's a lot. If you take the problem I've got with taking on the short ball is it does increase the danger. If you evade the short ball, you're less likely. If it's straight out evading, and of course you can't do that in T20 cricket. I just think it might increase the danger, particularly of players who aren't capable of playing the short ball towards the end of an innings, like an all-rounder or a bowler who feels the need that he has to get something on it. That's when it becomes a little bit more dangerous if you've got to face 2 of them in the over. Elma, back to you. I think I won.
Okay, well, I am not going to make a determination on this. We are going to leave it up to the fans. Make sure you let us know on social media. I know Smithy is not on Twitter. I know Smithy is not on Instagram. But one of us will WhatsApp him and tell him if you agree with him and have decided that he wins. Or are you Team Bish on the debate? Bowlers should be permitted an additional bouncer in T20s. Thank you so much to both of our participants. Absolutely phenomenal to see your faces again, hear your voices, and see that you still have so much passion for the game and all of the intricacies. Smithy, well, enjoy. You guys should be getting back to more normality than the rest of us pretty soon, hey?
Elma, we've been lucky that we've been able to stop this horrible virus. I won't say in its tracks, but we've been able to limit it with minimal damage, and we've certainly put the brakes on it. So it looks as if New Zealand may be getting back to some sort of normality, as you say it, in the next week or so, which will be great, because I'm sick of the sight of myself. And I really do need to see some of my buddies again. And I've just bought some new ping golf clubs, by the way. I've just bought some new pings. Bish, I'm on an 18.9 handicap. I need to get to the golf course to get it down. So next time I see you, my friend, I'll have your money. I'll have your money.
Bish putting in the backyard just to stay warm there?
No, I'm too busy trying to do housework and homeschooling my 10-year-old daughter. But I will say that if Smithy's an 18.9 handicap, then I have an afro. That is not fair, Ian Smith. But I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy that they're getting out of lockdown in New Zealand. Always been a great country.
Now, we are going to wrap up the show, just giving the platform to all of the clubs out there. Grassroots cricket moment. Here we go. We wanted to show you some of the wonderful tweets sent to us from fans this week, which flooded our timeline with pictures of local grounds. We can't wait for everyone to get back out there to their respective clubs. These clubs are so important to the game of cricket, and we honor you in this moment.